On this episode, we talk with Matthew Dusa. Matthew is the founder of Capstone Fire. Capstone Fire is a company that does all kinds of fire rescue. Started out doing forest fires. It's a private fire company. Didn't know those existed. A fascinating story. We hear all about his journey with that. Plus, he is also an implementer for the EOS system. Many of you have read the book Traction. The Entrepreneurial Operating System is part of that book, Traction, and he is an implementer for those processes. He goes into companies and helps them with the foundation of EOS. A fabulous story. I cannot wait for you to listen to it. Please like and subscribe and enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Hole in the Wall Business Podcast with Bill and James. I'm James Groves, and along with my business partner, Bill Dement, we want to share our journey as small business owners with you. As owners of Hole in the Wall Drywall Repair, we will attempt to peel back the curtain of owning a small business in the trade service industry and talk about the many adventures of owning a small business. Hey, Bill.
James, good morning. How are you?
Outstanding.
You know what? Just when you think you've heard it all, you find somebody that has such a unique business, is such a unique individual. I mean, I don't know how these people keep falling into our sphere.
Listen, don't complain.
I love it. Listen, they're always smart. They're always inspired. They're always ambitious. Mm-hmm. And man, I love the stories they bring.
It's funny because we bump out into the wild. I was at a business expo. I ran into this individual and we connected almost immediately and met his beautiful wife. And it was just a nice conversation. And getting to know him, I've realized that this is somebody that we need to have on the podcast. So it is my pleasure to introduce Matthew Dusa. Matthew Dusa, welcome.
Yeah, welcome in, Matt.
Matthew is the founder of Capstone Fire, which I cannot wait to get into. He's also an EOS implementer. So Matthew, thank you for being on the show. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. So listen, a Capstone Fire, I'm fascinated by it. I know about firefighters. I got friends who are firefighters. Tell me about what this business is.
Yeah, it's a really unique business. Not a lot of people have heard of the private fire industry. And so I was a firefighter paramedic. My brother was a firefighter paramedic, and we decided to go into business with our dad, who had a lot of business acumen in Silicon Valley and in the tech sector. And we found this small business that had a contract with the Forest Service to fight forest fires. And so we decided to go into business together as a family and see what this was all about. And when we purchased the company in 2007, it was a really small company, a couple trucks, few employees, seasonal employees that had this contract to go fight forest fires when the agencies and the government ran out of resources. And so that was what this business was built on.
And what state was that in?
We were in California. We were in Northern California.
Okay.
Just outside of Sacramento.
So when you bought it was just that zone?
Just that zone. We did a couple things. We had that contract. It was a call when needed business model. And so the way those contracts work is you're on a list and your resources are on a list. And then when the fires are burning all over the West and they need resources, they go to the list and they start at the top and they start calling people and you go to work. Wow. Really tough business model because you cannot forecast revenue. You cannot forecast the number of fires.
I can see that, yeah.
And so, ethically and morally, it's really tough as a business owner because you're praying for fire. You're praying that your number is going to be called. And so to offset the seasonality and the unpredictable nature of that business, we also did some fire prevention and mitigation work as well through either prescribed burns or through vegetation management.
That's got to be like rough terrain. I mean, are you like traipsing through the forest trying to get to these fires?
Yeah, so we were an engine-based company, and there's a lot of different contract equipment that goes out to these large campaign fires. And so we chose to be in the engine business. There's water tenders and dozers, and there's aircraft, and there's hand crews. And so our responsibility was really to get water into those places that was really hard to get to. So our engines were what are called Type 6 engines. These are smaller engines built on a Ford F-550 or a Dodge 5500 chassis with a small apparatus on the back. And then we would go and get into those hard to find places and just attack fire and with hand crews. So
wow.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, how do you scale that business?
It was really challenging. When we purchased the company, like I said, we had 3 engines and about 10 seasonal employees. And it was going to be a side job because my brother and I were both working for a municipal fire department. We were firefighter paramedics running 911 calls, and we were going to do this on our off days. And very quickly we realized that this business could scale. We could add equipment. We could diversify the types of contract equipment. We could get into other areas of consulting work, non-equipment based type work, vegetation management, et cetera. And so we left the fire department and just went all in. And as you can imagine, very capital intensive business.
Oh yeah.
I mean, fire engines are expensive. All of the protective equipment, it was a very challenging and costly first few years. But we knew that as we added equipment and we professionalized our business, that the opportunities would come.
And so growing territories. So you've now moved out of Northern California. You're now.
Yeah. So in 2007, 2008, our primary revenue stream was call when needed, supporting the Forest Service. In 2009, after some large scale fires in Southern California, we identified a need that the private sector, not just fighting forest fires, but the private sector that had liability exposure to wildfire, needed resources. And so we decided to move from Northern California to Southern California. We re-headquartered in San Diego, and we started to focus on activities that would smooth out our revenue streams throughout the year. And one of the foundational relationships that we built was with a utility company. And so we provided them on-site fire prevention services with our engines to follow their line crews out in the backcountry so that they would prevent fires from starting, which was a huge liability for that utility in 2007, 2008.
And there's utility roads through all those lines. Wow, I didn't even think about that. That's great.
Yeah, and you talk about dangerous work. I mean, kudos to linemen and anybody that works in any of those infrastructure jobs. But we would team up with them and get into the backcountry when they're doing line switches and pole replacements and energizing lines. And we were there as an insurance asset to prevent anything from getting large scale.
So you're far away from civilization most of the time when you're doing these things.
We were in remote locations with very poor communications, and these guys and gals that were on these engines were really isolated in a lot of cases.
So you got to carry food and clothing and restroom facilities, and you got to figure out how to live. You're camping out there?
Yeah, and sometimes we're camping, long drives. You look at business industry, this is a very dynamic business that we decided to get into. Every day was different, lot of moving parts. And then just to layer on top of that, the work that we were doing is incredibly dangerous. Mm-hmm. So at any time, the phone could ring and it could be a vehicle accident. It could be somebody's injured. It could be a fire. It could be any number of issues that you come across. And then we decided 2010, 2011 that we wanted to add more value to our customers. So we decided to make all of our personnel EMT certified because we were working in a high voltage environment. We were really nervous about electrocutions and shock. And so we wanted to have defibrillators and oxygen on all the engines.
Yeah. I imagine there's a lot of education involved for your employees in that situation, right?
A ton of training, a ton of continuing education. And so the type of people that we hired were to manage the engines and our chief officers. These were guys and gals that were retired. You're retired from the fire service when you're 50. You've still got good years in front of you. So we married that in with some young go-getters that utilized us as a platform to then go get their dream job with the big municipals.
So fast forward to today, how large is the company now?
Yeah, so we scaled the company and then sold it in 2021. And the company that acquired us had a fire division within their platform company. And then the company that bought us was Global Medical Response, the largest provider of both air and ground-based medical transportation. And they had a fire group called Rural Metro Fire. So they bought us. And now Capstone combined with Rural Metro, we have 1,200 firefighters, over 300 fire apparatus. And we have now diversified. If you combine all of that, we provide diversified services. So not just wildland. We provide firefighting in oil refineries, auto manufacturing plants, heavy industry. We're in airports, so we provide the firefighting at airports. And then we also provide technical rescue services, specifically confined space rescue standby.
And how big is your footprint now?
We are nationwide. We're in all 50 states.
Really?
Yeah.
So you moved from California and now you're in all 50 states.
Yeah. And so when we sold the business, my role changed from an operations role. I was the CEO of Capstone, and then they moved me into a strategy and growth position, looking ahead and trying to grow these various lines of business.
All right. So I know there's got to be some struggles in there. I mean, obviously, got to find the capital, got to scale it, got to find the right personnel and go out. So tell me about some of these struggles and what are some of the things you did to overcome?
Yeah. So as we grew, the biggest hurdle was diversifying our revenue streams. And then as soon as we identified our long-term vision, then it was time to go get the money to pay for this. And we were very ambitious in our growth trajectory. Normally, small businesses, it's really recommended to bootstrap it for a while before you take on outside capital, because outside capital wants their rate of return. And so if you can bootstrap for a long period of time, then you don't have this competing interest with growth and paying down debt or equity. And so, but we wanted to grow fast and we needed money. So we brought on shareholders. We did a Series A and B round of, we were very debt averse. So we were happy to give away equity rather than taking on debt, because then you didn't have debt payments. And so one of our biggest struggles was we were reinvesting in the business. So any dollar that we made, we were reinvesting in equipment, and equipment was really expensive. So we had continuous cash flow problems. Like most businesses, we were on a net 30 or a net 90 in some cases. And so you're having to float all of this payroll and fuel and all of the costs to do business.
And that's, I think, common to almost all businesses.
Yeah.
And you don't, that's not taught in high school. You kind of have to learn that from the school of hard knocks sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah. And so we were not meeting our revenue goals. We weren't meeting some of our financial outcomes. And then being in a family business is hard. And then you layer in family and brothers and dads and wives.
Throw in a little emotion. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so we were stepping on each other's toes a lot.
Yeah.
And so those were some of the struggles early on that we were really dealing with.
I mean, how do you navigate when obviously you love your family, but you bicker with family.
Oh yeah.
And if you don't see eye to eye, these are people that you've punched in the arm your whole life. So
yeah. One of the saving graces for me personally was I was introduced to a group called Vistage, which is a peer advisory group. And so this was a group of, at the time there was 12 of us, 12 CEOs, business owners, and we'd get together every month. And I credit a lot of my personal leadership development with Vistage. And so I've been a part of that group now for close to 15 years. But that really, it introduced me to a lot of concepts, a lot of speakers and a lot of topics. And then I call it CEO therapy, because every month you could get together and you were in a room of peers and everybody was going through those same challenges. And so I credit a lot of my personal development to that. And through my Vistage relationships, I was introduced to the book Traction. And when I read that, it really resonated with me that we were really weak in many key components of running a business.
yeah, so Traction has been around for a while. It's been introduced to me multiple times, and in all honesty, I've listened to it, parts of it online. And it's a lot. I think I got to chapter 3 and I'm like, I got to push pause.
Yeah.
There's just a lot there. So in this process of trying to look through this, did you obviously use Traction as part of your growth in your business?
Yeah, we decided that we needed to have a little bit more structure in in our individual roles, because we were stepping on each other's toes and it was very inefficient. We didn't have clarity on who was responsible for what or the accountability. And so when we read the book, we decided we were going to go all in and try this system out. And
so your brothers and your parent, they were all in?
Yeah.
And how big was your company at that point?
So this was in 2016. We were probably $5 million in revenue, maybe 50 employees or somewhere around there. The leadership team was my brother and my dad and I. And so we were the board and we were the executive leadership team, if you will. So we decided to go all in, utilize some of this structure to help us do some long-term planning, and then create the organizational structure. In EOS, it's called the accountability chart, and just follow the plan. And at the time, I was chief operating officer. My brother was in sales and development, and my dad was the CEO.
Well, so those who don't know about Traction or EOS, can you mind we just dig in this just a little bit and start talking about? I mean, EOS stands for
the Entrepreneurial Operating System.
Okay, so this is a system that kind of helps you build your business from an entrepreneur side. I know that it, because I've gone through a little bit of it, and number one is you've got to define who's doing what in the company, right?
Yeah, that's right. And so EOS it's really designed to help frustrated business owners or leaders get more of what they want from their business. And it's a way of harnessing human energy, because you only have so much that you can give to your business. And you guys have talked to a lot of people, and probably a common thread is, business owners are working 50, 60, 70 hours and they're all in. And when that happens, something's got to give. And unfortunately, it's family or personal life. And so one of the things that really resonated with me at the time was I had young children, and this was an opportunity for us to get some of our time back. And so EOS was designed to help business owners strengthen 6 key components of their business. And the accountability chart is one of the tools that is used to strengthen what is called the people component. And as you guys know, people are a challenge. And you have to, as Jim Collins said in Good to Great, you have to have the right people in the right seats. You have to have the right people on the bus. And so that's what the accountability chart is really focused on. But the whole system, it's a holistic system. It's working on the vision, where you're taking the business and how you plan to get there. You work on the people. It focuses on using data to make good decisions. It helps you process the issues that come up. It helps you design processes that are efficient and scalable and consistent, which make life easier for you to manage. And then it's bringing that vision down to the ground and executing on it day in and day out. And unfortunately, a lot of small businesses never realize their vision because they can never execute on the idea.
So being able to identify these things, obviously it probably changes tons of processes in the company. It changes basically, it is the operating system. So really the foundation of how you run your business entirely, right? It
is. And a lot of people think it's a software, and this is not software. This is getting the leadership team, and that could be a leadership team of 2. It could be a leadership team of 12. It's getting the leadership team to have crystal clarity on where they're going and what they're going to do. And so it's how to run a great meeting. It's how to prioritize things that need to get done in the long term and in the short term to reach that long term, big goal.
Yeah, and that's the very kind of thing a lot of entrepreneurs are lacking. They have done things themselves. They've done all the jobs in the company, and they're really good at making decisions and shooting from the hip. Matter of fact, they love making decisions so much, if they make the wrong one, they'll just go ahead and make another one.
Yeah, doubling down on bad decisions leads to really horrible outcomes. and EOS is, you're right. It is a little, there's some front end work that goes into it. And what you really need to have is a leadership team that is willing to be open and honest. But most important is being vulnerable and just allowing yourself to be okay with, look, you don't know everything, and utilize the people around you, their strengths to offset your weaknesses. And EOS system exposes all of that.
So it's not a fast process. It takes some time.
It does. The process to implement EOS into a company takes about 2 years to do it, to learn all of the tools. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of tools in the EOS system. And so typically you get out of the gates pretty quick. And if you were to hire a professional EOS implementer or a coach, they're going to take you through 8-hour sessions. So they're 7 hours plus or minus an hour. And you do 3 of those about 30 days apart. And then you go into a quarterly pulsing where you meet every 90 days. And during that time, you're going to learn all of the EOS tools. And the goal is to teach people how to use EOS, and then the coach is going to get out of the way. They're not consultants. And so EOS, it's a scalable system. It's very malleable to the company, which is great. You can work for nonprofits or product or sales, and the implementation, the coaching to use it works for everybody. It's a proven process, and everybody goes through the same process.
Did you know that there are over 140 million homes in the U.S.? 97% of them have walls and ceilings that are built using drywall. The drywall repair industry is simply enormous, valued at over $13 billion a year. We're hole-in-the-wall drywall repair, and for years we have been perfecting the art of repairing drywall, developing and refining our systems, and strengthening our brand. Our business model is simple, scalable, and easy to learn. We believe it's a real game changer. We are successful drywall repair pros who decided to take our repair business to a higher level, growing both our franchise training and support to industry-leading standards. You'll benefit from our vast experience helping your franchise hit the ground running and achieve success quickly. We'll give you access to our marketing team that has created strategic programs designed to get your phone ringing and booking new business fast. Join a fast-growing leader in an exciting dynamic segment of the home service industry by franchising with hole-in-the-wall drywall repair. Start building your own business and securing your own financial future today.
I'm curious, when you read the book and you decided we need this, how did you sell your family on that, the leadership at your company, and how did you implement it?
Yeah, so that's really interesting. We did not have very clear goals for what we were trying to accomplish, which was really interesting because as a family, we talked 72 times a day, 7 days a week. And when we actually got down and went through the process, we all had just a little bit different idea of where we were going long term. And so that was really fascinating. And so we decided to go it alone and self-implement. And looking back on that, we did an okay job, but we missed out on a ton of opportunities. And it probably took us 50% longer than it would have had we hired a coach.
Right. So I was going to say, because you don't necessarily need an implementer, but you did it on your own.
Yeah, a lot of companies self-implement, and they get a ton of value out of doing it. And the beautiful thing about the system is everything's online. You can read the book, and the book isn't philosophy. It is a playbook that you can actually take actionable steps. And if you go onto the EOS website, all the tools are there. And so there's companies that can be successful self-implementing, and then there's companies that just want to, let it go and have somebody kind of guide them through the journey.
Yeah, I mean, I'm smart and motivated, but I probably could not do it on our own. We would have to do this with the implementer, and someone to kind of hold our hand a little bit.
And it's interesting because as a business owner, you've got a lot of competing interests and a lot of things coming across your desk. And so we tell people that you're going to learn more faster, and it's just great to have a professional coach in there that's gonna help guide you and facilitate the conversations. And that, as an EOS implementer, there's 3 things that we're focusing on. And you're a teacher, you're a coach, and you're a facilitator. And there's some stuff to teach. Coaching, it's just like a sports coach. You're on the sidelines. You're not in the game. And so you're going to see things that the business owners and the leaders don't see. And so you can help coach them along. But I think the biggest and most valuable part of having an implementer come in is facilitating the conversations, because they can pull some of those things, some of those ideas and topics out that are hiding in the corners, and getting people to talk is really the value of those sessions.
So you liked it so well that you eventually became an implementer yourself, right? To help others.
Yeah, I went through the training, and I've been a help first person since I was a kid. We were talking earlier about the show Emergency with Johnny and Roy, and Squad 51. And ever since I was a kid and I saw that, I wanted to help people. And that's what got me into medicine. So my education, I went to college. I got a degree in kinesiology, worked on the sports medicine team, went and got a master's degree in sports medicine. I thought I was going to be an NFL trainer and running out and taping ankles and doing that thing. And then after 9/11, I just couldn't go to school anymore. So that's when I pivoted to go to the fire service and became a paramedic. But I've always wanted to help people, and watching small businesses make the same mistakes that we made, and they don't need to, is really what motivated me to go through the training to be able to coach companies on how to use this system.
I think that's kind of what attracted me to you when we met at the Business Expo, is that, I mean, you were giving away the book for free, to even just random people, right?
Yeah.
And it was, you weren't trying to capitalize on it. You have a giving spirit about you. That's why we built this podcast, because we there's no secrets. We like to share it all, the good and the bad, and hopefully somebody can learn something from our talks with people. Curious, at what point did the spouse come involved? Were you married when you were in school? Were you get married after school? Did she think you were going to be this big NFL guy, and then you hoodwinked her into this other side business? Where did the wife come in?
Yeah, so I met my wife on the afternoon after my last paramedic internship day, and so I had just come off the ambulance. What a brutal day that was! And so we met wakeboarding, and so no, we met when I was 29. I had a dream of becoming a firefighter paramedic, and she signed up for it.
Nice.
And then that dream shifted very quickly, because I was only in the fire service for 2 years before we bought Capstone and we went into the private sector. And so she's gone along for the ride. We just celebrated 17 years.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah.
Fabulous. You got a couple kids?
Got 2 boys, and it's been a journey. Yeah.
Man, that is so cool.
And she, you met her at the Business Expo.
Mhm.
She really likes this EOS thing because it is help first. And we have friends that own businesses, and I'm helping them along. And she's just been a staunch supporter of my ambition since I was young.
Sweet.
Yeah.
At what point did you make the shift to Florida?
Yeah. So after we sold Capstone to Global Medical Response, and I moved into a growth role, I didn't need to be at headquarters anymore. And so they allowed me to work remote, and I was ready to get out of California and see a different part of the world. And so we landed on the Space Coast.
Excellent. That's so cool. So if if a small business wanted to kind of do this EOS route, I mean, obviously you mentioned to me that, I bought it on Audible, but the reality is that the book itself the audiobook is free on Spotify.
Yeah, the audiobook is free. The book traction is, if you contact me, I'll get you a free copy. But that's a really good place to start. And what I tell people is, in the first 9 pages, you're going to know whether or not this system resonates with you. And you're going to know if one of the things that is talked about, and it's the 6 key components, if that can help a part of your business. And that's the best place to start is read the book, reach out to an implementer. Part of the proven process of working with an implementer is the first step is them giving you a complimentary 90-minute session. Mm-hmm. And so there's some things that you can take away from those 90-minute sessions to help you start the journey.
What are some of the struggles that business owners have making the leap into this?
I think the biggest one is typically business founders have a hard time letting go. And one of the tools that we teach is called Delegate and Elevate. And Dan Sullivan calls it Delegate and Elevate to your unique ability. And visionaries, founders have a hard time because it's their baby. They created this. They've the blood, sweat, and tears. And so to relinquish some of the control to the leadership team is a struggle. And then, as with everything, people is your number one asset and your number one liability. And so what we see a lot of is what's required in rolling out EOS is you have to be open and honest. And sometimes those conversations are really difficult. And you may see changes on your leadership team after you roll out EOS.
Yeah, I mean, just being in my own head for a minute, to just be open and honest, to find your why. Why are we doing this? It's a struggle because sometimes why? Well, so I just want to be in business and make some money, but really, what is the why? And trying to figure out how, as a team, we can divide and conquer. Because frankly, one of the things we teach here is you can't do business in a vacuum. You have to have delegation. You have to have people on your side, whether it's outsourced or inside your company. And being able to do that is key. That's why I really credit Bill, because he saw that he didn't have all the answers, and so we brought in help. And so that's why I'm in the business, is why we brought in a ton of amazing people in our company. So I can see the benefit of it, but I'll tell you what, being in your head about it, that's got to be the hard part. As a business owner, you're like, man, what are you doing? This is my baby.
Well, the entrepreneurs by mindset typically figure what I've thought, what I've come up with, what I've done, my actions have got us to where we are. That's enough. But it's not true. And that you mentioned it, but that was, if I've got a gifting, it's identifying where I'm not good and finding somebody else who is. And I thought, boy, that's what I need to do. Now, my wife really helped with this, because she said, when I started partnering with James, I says, well, he's so competent and his competencies are so different than the things I know and my personality. And she said, look at it like this. You ran the first leg of the race. You got the thing going. You made a lot of correct decisions, and then you handed off the baton, and now he's running with it. And I'm like, wow, that's really good. But it freed me up to do other things in the company. And because we now had a mindset that this was what was going to happen, when James was no longer running the company, he had to pass the baton to someone else who's now running the company here in Orlando.
Yeah, day-to-day. Yeah, and Bill said one thing a while back that it resonates with me, is that, if we're both the same, one of us really isn't needed.
Yeah,
right?
One of us is unnecessary.
And I would never have started a company doing drywall on my own. We always talk about, I'm a better editor than creator when it comes to content. I'm a better editor. I took the foundation of a great company and we made it, amazing. But I would never have started that race on my own. So it really took the two of us together to kind of get to where we are now.
Yeah, but that's a real encouragement to the entrepreneurs, though. You just have to be able to, that's the bridge that so many of them never can cross. They're just spooked when they get to allowing somebody else into the inner circle to be able to make decisions. I can remember the phenomena, Matt. One day, I think it was James and the crew, the leadership, they came up with this idea, and I thought, how can that work? I didn't even come up with that. That idea is no good. And they implemented it, and within just a few days, I saw that it was successful. And I thought, okay, sometimes you can't trust other people. They do care that the business succeeds as much as you do.
Yeah. You're never going to scale by yourself.
You just can't.
And so what leads a lot of people to frustration is hitting that ceiling, and it's inevitable. It's normal. And whether that's because it's a solopreneur who can, there's no more time, or you've run out of good ideas, or you can't manage all of the scheduling of the trucks and the people and do the finances all by yourself. And so that's what EOS recognizes, that every organization at some point in their journey, they're going to hit a ceiling, and you need to master 5 leadership abilities to break through that. And that's one of the things that the 6 key components is working on, is mastering those leadership abilities as a team for you to be able to break through and get to the next level. And it doesn't matter if you're, $100,000 in revenue or $100 million in revenue. Every organization is going to hit a ceiling, and you need to figure out how to break through.
So how long after you started implementing EOS did you find yourself able to capitalize scaling and then be able to sell the company?
The first thing we noticed right out of the gates was we had clarity in our roles. And then we went immediately to process. And we strengthened our processes so that we were doing things the right and best way every single time. The consistency then allowed us to scale. And so I think after probably a year, 4 quarters of implementing EOS, getting the right people in the right seats, surrounding ourselves with good folks, then we started to take off. And that's where we actually added some services and, again, diversified our revenue streams. And then things just really
I
took
wonder,
off.
while you were in that process, were there frictions that you could identify as you're
Oh,
going through that?
oh yeah. Yeah. And I'm smiling because with family, it's tough. One of our biggest challenges was turning it off. You know, the wives didn't want to hear about stuff at Thanksgiving dinner. They were over it. They just wanted to have a weekend. And I credit my wife with really helping me with my work-life balance. I had small kids at home and I wanted to be with them. And, you know, for us, because we had people in harm's way, I always had my phone on me because I never knew when that call was going to come. And fortunately, we never lost an employee while I was the CEO and owner of Capstone. We've lost a lot of people since, and the fire industry is just dangerous. But that was always something on the back of my mind. And she really helped me pass that baton and say, you know what, one of the chief officers that has 30 years of experience can take the duty chief phone for the day. So that was like an immediate personal, like, okay, see the forest through
Good
the
for
trees.
her.
Yeah, good for her. Yeah. Yeah, she's a good one.
All right. Do you think you would have been able to scale it and then sell the company without EOS?
Yeah, I don't think so. It was just too dynamic and we were running around. I can remember my dad came to the office one day and he just sat in the conference room and he just sat there. He's reading the newspaper. He just wanted to see and hear what was going on. And I'm doing wind sprints up and down the hallway, running from meeting to meeting and putting out fires, not real fires, but putting out fires. A lot of puns in the fire industry with what we did. And he said, there's got to be a better way. And so I don't think we could have gotten to, 300 employees and 80 fire engines operating in 11 states if we didn't have a foundation and a system to make decisions off of.
Right. Are you happy you sold?
It's bittersweet, right? We spent almost 18 years building this. There were a couple hiccups towards the end. My dad didn't want to participate anymore. He was ready to retire. He got sick and then unfortunately passed away of cancer. And so I think he wanted to see a transaction and see a liquidation event prior to him stepping away. But now I've learned a lot, and that we were absorbed into a big business, and I'd never worked in a corporate setting. So I got to see and learn even more since selling the company. I talked to a lot of business owners, and a majority, you ask them, hey, what do you want out of this business? Oh, well, I want to sell it.
Yeah.
Because they want that big payday or they want to retire. And I always ask, well, if it's profitable and if you're in the right seat in the accountability chart and it's paying you dividends, well, then why would you sell? If you like what you do, if you're giving back to the world in a meaningful way and it's producing the lifestyle that you want in terms of time, energy, and money, why would you want to sell?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah, it's not for everybody. I mean, we've consulted with people that want to work with us, and our goal is to build a thriving business that someday we could sell.
Yeah.
Because I mean, as much as I love hole in the wall, I have other hobbies and habits and family to spend time with, and entrepreneurs are philanthropy. My father's a missionary in Africa, and I want to spend some time doing mission work. And maybe down the road, the sale of hole in the wall would facilitate that. Right?
Yeah.
But that would be my personal goal, right?
But to get to there, to have the option of selling or staying on, you have to run a really great business.
Yeah.
And so a lot of small business owners had a great idea. They were good at a trade. They had a skill set, but running a business and doing the thing or producing the widget is two different skill sets. And learning how to run a business and manage people are things that are not innate for many. And you have to put some time and energy into it.
I think that's really what we discovered. And I did figure out really quick that James, because he came from sort of that corporate background where there were a lot of politics and a lot of employees and a complex organization, he instinctively knew how to do things that I didn't even know was necessary, wasn't even on my radar. And I remember asking him early on, how do you even know that's a thing? How do you know to even think about that? And he always surprised me with what he was bringing to the company.
Well, a lot of founders, they're good at it's a landscaping company, it's an auto mechanic company, you're firefighter, whatever the founder, they're good at the task, but that doesn't mean they're going to be good managers or business owners or, how to run an employee, a crew,
Yeah. And to your point, it's just two different skill sets.
Yeah.
It really is. And as a leader of an organization, whether it's a for-profit or not for-profit or a school or whatever, you have to be a lifelong learner and you have to continually raise your bar of skills, whether it's communication or goal setting or marketing or nowadays. And one of my big weaknesses right now, and something that I want to focus on for next year is AI. And that's coming fast.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know enough to leverage that technology for the benefit of me personally or the business or organization that I'm with. And so, as leaders, it's mandatory. If you're going to keep up with the times, you have to be a lifelong learner, read books and stay ahead of the game.
Yeah, I've got a girl for you. Her name is Heidi Araya. She's on the podcast. She's a master AI specialist.
That's great.
MIT graduate. And you're right. It is coming super fast. I mean, they're saying within 3 years, it's going to be, self-sustaining.
Well, even the stuff that's been demonstrated to us, we were trying to find a specific person in a company that we just wanted to do business with and reach out to. And we couldn't get past the gatekeeper. And somebody in our sphere says, well, you just do this. And he pulled up in Chat GPT and he says, I'm looking for this person. And boy, in about 20 seconds, we had 10 paragraphs about this person.
Their background, their military history. And
it's really exciting technology, but I've also seen Terminator. So I'm cautiously optimistic about what the future, but it's something that, people say that's going to take away jobs. And I really think it's going to enhance people's ability to do their work, including leadership, not just in the technical sphere, but I think people just in decision-making, processing data, utilizing data to inform good decision-making. I think that's going to be really helpful for C-suite level and business owners and entrepreneurs.
There's a precedent for that. I remember back in the 80s when the computer was really starting to make inroads into the office environment. It was even before home computers. They said, well, it's going to cut the work week to 25 hours because you'll be able to get all your work done sooner. Well, now 40 years on, I haven't seen anybody working 25 hours a week. We just figured out how to do more.
It's really interesting you say that, Bill. So my dad, he traveled a ton back in the 80s, he was running a big tech company out of Silicon Valley. And he made the comment, now people work harder because before cell phones and computers, you'd go to the airport and you'd read the newspaper. And then you'd go to the phone bank, you check your voicemail and you get on the plane. Now we're wired in.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's no downtime. And so I think it's actually done the opposite. I think it's extended the workday into the evening. It's a terrible habit to check your emails before you go to bed.
It's so addicting now.
It is.
Well, then with remote work, right now we don't need big offices. So the work is at home with you.
Yeah.
My poor wife, she works from home. And so it'll be like 11 o'clock at night. Oh, I got to go do something. And she'll just jump up and go to her office real fast and do something.
Yeah.
There's never really fully a downtime unless you really are sincere about carving that out.
Yeah.
And it's so important as a leader of an organization, no matter how big or small, that you step away and you take some breaks because that's where the good ideas come. Some of the problem solving comes. And that's where a system like EOS, it forces you to do some of that and it forces you to prioritize because if everything's a priority, then nothing's a priority. And so that's where the system really helps you get laser focused on what do we need to accomplish this week, in the next 90 days, and in this year for us to achieve our long-term goals.
Wow. Well said.
Yeah, well said. Well, Matthew, thank you for being here. I can't thank you enough for all the knowledge you've imparted on us as a company. And I'm glad that we're friends. If someone wants to get a hold of you and learn more about EOS or maybe learn about Capstone, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Probably the best way is on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. And so you can connect with me on LinkedIn that's probably the best way.
All right. That's Matthew Dusa, D-U-S-A.
D-U-S-A.
On LinkedIn.
Yes,
Excellent.
sir. Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming. I really
thank
appreciate it. And maybe we'll do this again sometime.
Yep.
And I want to maybe hear some case studies as you get on this road.
Yeah.
I'm curious about all that stuff.
Yeah.
So
Thanks for having me, guys.
Awesome.
This was fun.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thank you.
We'd like to thank you for listening to the Hole in the Wall Business Podcast with Bill and James. We'd love for you to join our Facebook group and keep the conversation going. If you'd like to learn more about us and our business, check us out at holeinthewall.com. If you'd like to learn more about how to start a Hole in the Wall franchise, go to holeinthewallfranchising.com.